All right. So, hi, everybody. So, we're here with another Emerging Leaders conversation. Today, I'm Marquise Cooper, by the way, class of 2014. I'm here today with Alan Boozer, class of 2018. So, Alan, want to just roll right into it. I think you know kind of what some of the things that we want to cover. But first and foremost, tell the folks a little about yourself, what your major was, and all about your time at JWU.
Joined Johnson Wales September of 2014. Did not entirely have a clear idea of where I wanted to end up post-graduation. So I started out as a business administration major. Sophomore year, beginning of sophomore year, I picked up an accounting major, and actually end of my sophomore year is when I added my finance major. So upon graduation, I was in accounting and finance. I'm a graduate and ultimately ended up pursuing a career in finance. And just to note, I was also a player on the men's varsity ice hockey team as well. So I was also a joy throughout my 4 years at the Johnson Wales.
And can you talk, so you and I had talked briefly, and maybe we can get into it a little more, about some of the programs that you had taken advantage of, as far as, scholarship programs or development programs and all that. Could you talk a little bit about that at Johnson & Wales and after?
Yeah, so it was about my sophomore year at Johnson & Wales where I did take advantage of a program called Sponsored Educational Opportunity. That is a program that ultimately is for underrepresented minorities, so African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, and it's really designed to help underrepresented minorities gain exposure to some of the larger firms within corporate America. So it could be a career path within consulting, law, and personally mine was in finance. So that was definitely an avenue that I decided to pursue probably my sophomore year at Johnson Wales, and that was really just an understanding that I had of the disparity between underrepresented minorities and the majority within the Wall Street space, and that was just and something else that I wanted to be able to add to my resume and kind of add to my holster as I was preparing for the big junior year internship and ultimately preparing for my start my career upon graduation.
Have you found in your career path any alumni or any fellow graduates that you're able to kind of tap into, just to help you out or to give you some friendly advice from time to time?
Yeah, so I will say in my direct, in New York, personally, I haven't had the opportunity to connect with too many Johnson Wales individuals. However, there are certainly a few that I do keep in contact with. Ben Canner, Kakale Alinja. These are certainly individuals that not just on a mentor basis, but also just on everyday connecting and just trying to keep in touch, as friends from Johnson Wales. But specifically from a career perspective, these are individuals that throughout my first 2 years within the field, I've certainly relied on them multiple times. I've relied on them for when I initially made my pivot from going on to from Goldman Sachs to where I'm currently employed, and I've relied on them for being that they graduated or kind of ahead of my time. It's also great to kind of have them to kind of bounce ideas off of and kind of say, hey, I'm currently in an analyst position, so if you were giving an assignment or a project or a task to your analyst, and I were to kind of come back to you with this deliverable, what would be some of the immediate questions that you might initially come to your mind? So these are opportunities that I take, even though they're not here in New York, it's a quick phone call where I can hop on the phone with them and really get what I'm looking for that kind of allows me to kind of go in with a little bit more confidence, as I present the following day or, kind of bring a new idea to the table the next day. And so these are, reasons once again, from not only just having the opportunity to catch up with friends, but also, from a career perspective too. I've certainly relied on multiple individuals from Johnson & Wales as I've continued to trek throughout my career.
And have those individuals or just anybody that you've encountered, in your career progression, have they given you any advice that really has stuck with you, or can you point to, what's some of the best advice that you have yourself received so far?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. You know, one of the things that I always was told, you know, just you know, my mother would actually always bring it up to me when I was pursuing my career in hockey, and that was always, you know, following your path and understanding that your path is going to be, you know, it's at times maybe similar to others, but at the end of the day, you know, as you often hear, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and it's all about how you get to the finish line. And you know, when I was initially beginning my career, you know, and I was looking to break into more pricing and analytics work, you know, I had continued conversations with Cacaulay, and that was one of the things that he actually brought up was, you know, Alan, it's important to remember that, you know, your path of getting to Wall Street and kind of what you make out of it is specific to you. And that was something that, you know, is continued to kind of be what I try to follow. You know, I try not to put too much weight on, you know, my colleagues or, you know, their career advancement, but it's really, you know, trying to focus on my path and, you know, understanding my long-term goals as well as my short-term goals. And it kind of, you know, really sticks with me and allows me to kind of keep my head on my shoulders in terms of making sure that, you know, I'm excelling in the ways that I want to excel, and I'm getting, you know, in the beginning of the career, in my career, kind of getting, you know, the networks I want to build and you know, the analytics that I want and the technicals that I want to learn and the fundamentals that I want to learn. And, you know, I think it's important for a lot of individuals to certainly understand kind of what their path is going to be. Because I ultimately believe that, you know, it's easy to work hard, but you also want to work smart. And if you're working, if you understand, you know, what those next steps you want your career to be, it's easy to kind of, you know, develop a path and make that path specific to you and you know, ultimately find success by, you know, following things that are more genuine to, you know, where you want to see your kind of career progress.
So you and I have talked a little bit about this, but can you, you know, tell a little more about, you know, some of your experience in terms of navigating, you know, Wall Street, corporate America, all those things as a young man of color, especially kind of in this day and age?
Yeah, and I think, you know, once again, that certainly goes back to the point I just made of once again, following your path. You know, I personally believe that graduating from Johnson & Wales, I had all the tools necessary to be successful on Wall Street. And I think, you know, throughout these first 2 years, I think, you know, there's been no doubt against that, you know. So, you know, I think kind of going back to that point once again is what was so important for me to hear was following your path. You know, when you step onto Wall Street and you're a person of color, you know, it's probably, you know, simple to say that there's just so many individuals that don't look like you. They don't come from a similar background as you. They don't have the same connections as you or the same alumni possibly to tap into as you. And once again, it's all about following my path. And I think that's what's really put my head on my shoulders about, you know, me keeping in contact with, you know, individuals from Johnson & Wales to try to make sure that, you know, they can have the opportunity to have the same career path on Wall Street, right? And trying to follow a path that, you know, I believe is going to create an inclusive environment for others that, you know, even don't look like me. You know, throughout this current environment, you know, there's certainly been times where, you know, there's uncomfortable conversations and, you know, at times you're looking at things and you're kind of scratching your head a little bit. But, you know, at the end of the day, as I said, you know, I'm only 2 years in my career. I'm currently going on my third. And you know, I do want to reiterate once again, I think the most important thing that I can do is, you know, succeed. And you know, I hate to say it in a selfish manner, but you know, in my career, it's really about succeeding for and focusing on what's important to me. So to me, as an African American currently working on Wall Street, you know, my goals are to one day be the individual where people can look on stage and see someone that looks like them. My goals are to, you know, be able to tap back into a Johnson & Wales network and pull from that network, right? And my goal is to, at times, you know, later on in life, you know, when you know, you're looking at all these diversity numbers, I hope to be someone that can change those for the better. So, and so much of that, once again, is following my path because the majority of individuals whom I work with do not look like me and will not have the same path as me. So it is important to make sure that, you know, doesn't mean that what they're focused on or working towards every day isn't important, but it means that my goals and what I, you know, put at the top of my priority list outside of career goals may just be different, right? And that's okay because I'm following my own path. So, you know, certainly that's one thing that I try to stick by and will continue to stick by as I continue on.
No, and I don't think that that's a selfish notion at all. You want to be able to succeed and to be able to show that it can be done, so that others can see your success and use it as an example, especially, students and alumni that'll follow us, when they leave campus. So I wanted to ask, and I asked this of everyone, do you have a mantra, a phrase, a favorite quote, or any, saying that you live and die by, or anything like that?
Yeah, my favorite quote is Martin Luther King Jr. And the quote is, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you must keep moving forward. And I just love that quote. I think life is, you're always consistently going to deal with the cards that you're dealt. Sometimes, life throws punches and you got to kind of, dip, dodge, and throw them back, So, and I just love that quote because, once again, as life kind of comes at you, at times you're going to kind of think you're stuck, or you're going to kind of think, there's an obstacle in front of you. And even kind of going back to what you just said about being an African-American on Wall Street. And sometimes, in the current environment, you're looking at things and you're like, wow, have numbers really remained this stagnant for this long, right? In terms of African-Americans, reaching, seniority, or African-Americans just, taking on larger roles, or just making up a larger percent of human capital at these firms. But once again, for me, it's all about, moving forward, right? And sometimes, the run might be easy, and sometimes you're crawling, right? But the thing that matters the most to me is am I always moving forward, right? So, and kind of taking, whatever life throws at me, and understanding that sometimes there's, especially from a career perspective, sometimes there are things that happen that are certain, they're just more important than work. But that doesn't mean it's not making you better, right? So it's more of a quote for life, in terms of, always making sure that I'm trying to do things that matter the most to me and that are making me better. And also remembering those times where, I feel like there's an obstacle in front of me. I need to find a way to get around that obstacle, right? I need to find a way to keep moving forward. And an obstacle is only an obstacle until you get around it, right? So once you get around it, it's just something in the past. So certainly, that's a quote that every once in a while I need to look at it and refresh it once again, and it just kind of drives some motivation behind me to keep moving forward.
We can keep moving forward. All right, Alan, thank you.
No problem. It was great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you.